Shana Tova, everyone. That is the polite rabbinic way of saying, please find your seats. So we're trying something new and different. The idea is, what can we do to make sure that you're involved the whole time that we do this service? One of the things we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a couple songs and things that are going to be projected up on our screens, right? I'm looking at the booth. So this is a version of Hine Matov Manayim. It's not the one you grew up with. It involves clapping and singing, all right? So I'm going to start, but please follow them for what to do, okay? 1, 2, ready, and. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Try that again. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Try that.
Repeat after him.
How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is
to be together on this day. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is
to be together on this day. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is
to be together on this day. Last time. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
One of the first things we're supposed to do in the morning is to study Torah. And there's a special song that Rabbi Gorban has introduced that tells us that this is sweet as what? Thank you. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongues. Try that. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongues. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah. Sweet as honey. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongues. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongues.
As the screens go off, we're going to turn vaguely to page 119. There's a tradition, a Hasidic tradition, that everyone should have 2 pockets. I unfortunately only have one. And in the right pocket, one should place the words, "For my sake, the world was created." Or, "For me, the world was created." And in the left pocket should be, "I am dust and ashes." I am dust and ashes. Thank you to Rabbi Gibson for the props. Props to him for the props. So why would we have both of these sayings in our pockets? The idea is that sometimes we are feeling like everything is terrible. And we need a reminder that we are important, that we are special, that the world was created for my own sake. And sometimes we think we are the best, right? And that everything is ours and that we get to do whatever we want. And in that case, we should reach into our other pocket and remind ourselves that we are not all that in a bag of chips, as I grew up saying. Instead, I am dust and ashes. So this is what our tradition tells us we should put in our pockets to remind us not to get stuck in the extremes of things are terrible or I'm the best. I want you to turn to your neighbor for a second and think about what would you put in your pockets to remind you that things are okay even though things might feel terrible, and that maybe you're not the most important thing in the world when you are feeling high and mighty. What would you put in your pockets?
I put my Mickey Mantle baseball card. I still have it. Reminds me I'm not that great.
We continue with a blessing for our bodies on page 123. We join together. Precious above all is the soul within me, a spark of childhood innocence, curious, hopeful, loving, and good. Whatever I have done, wherever I have gone wrong, however I have been hurt, I know its light still shines. May I return and reconnect with the part of me that belongs to you, my divine core, eternal, incorruptible. Baruch atah Adonai, asher biyado nefesh kol chai v'ruach kol basar ish. Page 135, sing the words of Psalm 150.
From the second line. Hallelu el bekodsho, hallelu bekia uzo, hallelujah, 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 v'gurata, hallelujah, kiro kudlo, hallelujah, hallelujah. Together. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Look at the last four lines. Hallelujah, betzilzalei shama, hallelujah, betzilzalei trua, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol hanshama hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Sing with us. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Page 140.
Yishtabach Shimcha Lad Malkeinu. Our sovereign God, source of holiness and greatness, may your name be praised forever in this world and beyond. Eternal one, God of our mothers and our fathers, your strength, sanctity, glory, and dominion are deserving of song, praise, poetry, hymn, sacred chant, and blessings of thankfulness for all time and eternity. Baruch atah Adonai, el melech hador b'tishbachot, el ha'odot adon ha'niflaot, ha'bocher b'shirei zimra, melech elchei ha'olamim.
Please rise as you're able for Chatzi Kaddish on the facing page. Yitgadol ve'yitgadol
Rutei, ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechonu v'yomechon, u'v'chayed chol beit Yisrael, b'galav v'yizmariv, v'yivru, amen, yesh meraba mevorach, le'olam le'aliyah yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtarach, v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal, shemei v'kodesho erichu, lilah ulilah min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nehemata, damiran v'yalema v'yivru. Amen.
Baruch is on page 142.
Baruch Adonai, Hamivorach leolam vaed.
Please be seated. We're going to continue with a song that we do in religious school. As soon as Rabbi Gibson gets his guitar. Those of you who have been in the religious school the past couple of years, you should know this one really well. And we're still on page 142.
We're still waiting on the rabbi and his capo there.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
Yotzer or, uvarei choshev, oseh shalom, shalom, uvarei et hakol. Yotzer or, uvarei choshev, oseh shalom, shalom, uvarei et hakol.
Now you all know it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yotzer or uvarei choshev, oseh shalom, shalom, uvarei et hakol. Yotzer or uvarei choshev, oseh shalom, shalom, uvarei et hakol.
Infinite light is preserved in life's treasure house. Lights from the darkness, said God, and it was so. The bottom of page 144. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. On page 147. All life springs from a single fountainhead. Listen, Israel. Know the oneness at the heart of multiplicity. With love and reverence, bear witness to Makor Chaim, the source of life. Turn the page 148 for the Chatima, the signature of this blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava.
So as we prepare for the Shema, I want us all to remember what these words might mean to us. So first we need to quiet ourselves down, right? To really be able to pay attention to what's going on inside. So we may say to ourselves, shh, can you join me? Shh, so that we can fill the room with that quiet. Shh. And while you are thinking of what the Shema may mean to you, you might have to say to yourself, try that. And take that moment. Think, what does it mean to be talking to God, to be listening to God? And as you think about what God might mean to all of us and to this world for which we're celebrating the birthday, the creation of the world today, you can think, you join me? And we put them together. First we get quiet. Think about God and creation. And imagine you're seeing it for the first time. Shema, Shema, Shema. I think we're prepared. Shema.
Just rise as you're able.
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Please turn the page.
And you may be seated. 152.
We'll join together. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha ve'hayu ha'dvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam בשבתך וביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Please turn to page 157. We can join together at the bottom. Love God with your mind. Stay curious, open to questions. Marvel at the wonder of what is. Love God with your heart. Stay alive to suffering and joy. Yearn for the world that could be. Love God with your strength. Open your hands and give. Work for the sake of what ought to be. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Turn forward to page 163. And at the top of the page are some words to help us as we move into Micha Mocha, those words that the Israelites say at the edge of the Red Sea when they don't know where their hope is going to come from. So we'll put ourselves back there. Where does Israel get the courage, the chutzpah to go on believing in redemption in a world that knows mass hunger, political exile, and war? How can Jews testify to hope and human value when they have been continuously persecuted, hated, expelled, destroyed? Out of the memories of the Exodus, page 164. Mi chamocha golim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, norat hiro osef elul, shira chadasha, shibechu geolim, לשמך אספת הים יחד כולם הודו וימלכו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Please rise if you're able. Sur Yisrael, Kuma Be'ezrat Yisrael, Uvdechinu Mecha, Yehuda v'Yisrael. Go Aleinu, Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Ata Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
As we enter into the Amidah, please look at 166, the second reading. Make every effort to pray from the heart. Even if you do not succeed, the effort is precious in the eyes of the Eternal One.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi aki tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. זכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. page 170. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות ומדום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ורחמים, ונאמרת לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני
be seated. We prepare for the Unatana Tokef, which is on the second section of page 174. There are people for whom the Unatana Tokef strikes deep in the heart because of the losses experienced either in the last year, sometimes in the week or so between Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur. And there are those people who say, oh, those are simply old words. They are all old words until they strike us, until we know that death is real and that life is a joy. On January 23rd, I was with my mother in Minneapolis, eating dinner in her living facility, when she got the word that she had a cancer that was not going to be cured. And she looked at me and said, should I go up and get drunk? I said, if you want to. She went to the oncologist, and the oncologist said, it's time to prepare for the end. And my mother said, are you kidding? I've just written 2 mystery books. I've got a 3rd in the works. I've got to be with my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. I have so much to do. And Unatana Tokef reminds us that to stand here is not to be judged by God. It is to recognize the fragility of every life, of our lives. She died April 16th. And she died the day after watching on Turner Classic Movies Howard Keel Day. So she sang at the top of her lungs to Kiss Me Kate and 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. She went out singing the Unatana Tokef.
Please turn to page 178. Join with me on ooh. We'll all join with ooh, and then we'll add the words. At the top if you can. Rosh Hashana Yikatevun Uvyom Som Kippur Yechatevun Rosh Hashana Yikatevun Uvyom Som Kippur Yechatevun. On Rosh Hashana, this is written. On the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world, and how many will be born into it? Rosh Hashana Yikatevun Uvyom Som Kippur Yechatevun Rosh Hashana Yikatevun Uvyom Som Kippur Yechatevun. Who will live and who will die? Who will reap the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? earthquake, and who by plague, who by strangling, and who by stoning. Rosh Hashana yikatevun, uvyom Tzom Kippur yechatevun. Rosh Hashana yikatevun,
uvyom Tzom
Kippur yechatevun. Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be troubled? Who will be calm and who tormented? Who will live in poverty and who in prosperity? Who will be humbled and who exalted? Rosh Hashana yikatevun,
uvyom Tzom Kippur
yechatevun. Rosh Hashana yikatevun,
uvyom Tzom
Kippur yechatevun. Please turn the page to 180. Uteshuva, utefila, utedaka, mavirin, ezra, agezera.
On 184, please rise as you were able for the Kedusha, the sanctification of God.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאיך, וקרא זה אל זה יאמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא הארץ כבודו. אדיר, אדירנו, אדוני, אדוננו, אדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אבינו אלוהינו, הוא אבינו ומלכנו, הוא מושיענו, הוא ישפיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד כל לך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה.
Please be seated. The rest of this prayer actually continues with passages that remind us of different ways to experience God and to sense God's holiness. And in just a second, there will be words up on the screens. So I invite you to take a few moments to offer the prayers that you can find on page 183 through 193 if you would like to, or if you would prefer, think about this question at the bottom. What helps you sense holiness in your life? When do you feel that extra special sense of separation and elevation that is holiness? We take a few moments for silent prayer.
It's the best answer I've heard all night.
Baruch atah Adonai, HaMelech HaKadosh. Blessed are you, Adonai, Holy Sovereign. So we've come to the section where we're going to have our first shofar blasts in the service. This set of shofar blasts is meant to remind us of God's malchut, or sovereignty, and that it's our responsibility to serve God in everything we do. Do our actions help make the world a better place? Do our behaviors honor the spark of God in each and every person? First, we'll offer a prayer that comes towards the end of every service called Aleinu. It's a prayer that reminds us that it's up to us, that it's our responsibility to live and act as God's helpers. When we bow as low as we can to show our love and commitment to God, and by the way, you are welcome to move into the aisles to do that as well, we say with our bodies that we are here to serve God. Then, when we hear the calls of the shofar, I want you to listen. Listen through the loud noise. Listen through the roar of silence. Listen. What do you hear? Can you hear the voice of God telling you what you need to do to honor God and the spark of God in each of us? What does it say? I invite you to rise now as we turn to page 202 for Aleinu, the great Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabbat שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, שלא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שמחנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. משתחווים ומודים. לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש
Page 205. Ribono shel olam, power of all, have compassion on the souls of Israel. Open their hearts to do tshuva before you. Open their souls for the sake of returning to you. Page 206, we have the blessings for the calls of the shofar. Baruch atah Adonai, please join with me, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechiyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Tekiah, Shavarim Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shavarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah.
He'll be back.
Good. We'll have more a little bit later.
Areshet sifatenu yerav lefanecha el ram v'nisa. Areshet sifatenu yerav lefanecha el ram v'nisa. Mevinu mazin mabiru makshib lekol kol tekiyatenu. Utkabel berachamim uvratzon seder malchuyotenu.
Please be seated. Continue on page 208, concluding the blessing of God's sovereignty.
We read together in the middle of the page. God who is ours, and God of our fathers and mothers, lead us to holiness through your mitzvot, and may each of us find a portion of Torah that is ours. You bestow such goodness, teach us to be satisfied, and to know the joy of your salvation. Help us to serve you truly with purity of heart, for you are a faithful God whose truth stands forever.
Baruch atah Adonai, melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael, b'yom hazikaron.
The next few prayers invite us to ask for God's favor in listening to our prayers and also for gratitude. There will be a couple prompts on the screen, and I'll also give you a few moments for silent prayer. Continue on page 216.
Sim, sim, sim shalom, sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim, sim, sim shalom tova uvracha. Chein v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael amecha. Parcheinu yotzeinu kulanu ke'echad be'or panecha, sim, sim, sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim, sim, sim shalom tova uvracha. Ki be'or panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Torat chaim ve'ahavat chesed u'tzedaka uvracha ve'rachamim v'chayim ve'shalom, ve'shalom. Sim, sim, sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim, sim, sim shalom tova uvracha. V'tov bein Bishlomecha,
Sim, sim, sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim, sim, sim shalom tova
uvracha. Sefer chaim beracha v'shalom ufarnatza tova. Nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha. Anachnu v'chol amcha beit Yisrael. L'chaim tovim u'leshalom. Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom.
Amen. Please prepare to rise as you are able as we open the ark for the Avinu Malkeinu on 224. We begin responsively in English. Avinu Malkeinu,
We stand in awe, we draw close in love.
Avinu Malkeinu,
The
Power that passes through us and pervades all things.
Avinu Malkeinu,
The
The divine that is present within and among us.
Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu,
We speak this sacred truth out loud. Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha.
We stand as one, accountable for our sins.
Avinu Malkeinu Chamol Aleinu Ve'al Olaleinu Ve'tapenu,
We
We yearn for true compassion for our children most of all.
Avinu Malkeinu kala dever v'cherev v'ra'av me'aleinu.
May we resist the ravages of illness, fear, and despair.
Avinu Malkeinu Kale Kol Tsar U'Mastin Me'aleinu,
Let us summon courage to withstand our enemies.
Avinu Malkeinu kotvenu b'sefer chaim tovim.
Let the goodness of this gift of life be engraved upon our hearts.
Avinu Malkeinu Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova,
May we taste anew the sweetness of each day.
Avinu Malkeinu malei adenu mibirchotecha.
Let us wake up to the blessings already in our grasp.
Together, Avinu Malkeinu Chonenu Ve'anenu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim Aseh Manu Tzedakah V'Chesed V'Hoshienu. However small our deeds, let us see their power to heal. May we save lives through compassion, generosity,
and justice.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Vaneinu, Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Vaneinu, Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim.
As we prepare to read from the scroll of the law, the Torah, we're going to ask you to turn to 228. Anybody who's either reading Torah or been asked to hold a Torah, as we proceed the Torah through the congregation, please come up now.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Noteh Chesed L'Alavim, Noseh Avon V'Afesha, V'Chata V'Nakeh. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Kadosh Adonenu, Kadosh v'Norah Shemo. Gadlul Adonai iti, uneromem Hashemoya.
בשמיים ובארץ,
כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה, תמיד נעשה לכל ראש. לך אדוני הגדולה, הגבורה והתפארת, והנצח וההוד. כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה, תמיד נעשה לכל ראש. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, העולם עומד. על שלושה דברים,
על שלושה דברים,
על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, העולם עומד.
על התורה ועל העבודה, ועל גמילות חסדים. על התורה ועל העבודה, ועל גמילות חסדים. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, העולם עומד. Over there, Barry. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים,
על שלושה דברים, העולם עומד. על התורה ועל העבודה, ועל גמילות חסדים. על התורה ועל העבודה, ועל גמילות חסדים.
Wait just a moment till the ark is closed. There. Find your seats. As many of us know, the Torah portion for today is the binding of Isaac. And we're going to have 3 aliyot. Some of you asked, how are we doing the entire service in an hour and a half? 3 aliyot, not 5. If you have overcome a challenge this year, had a loss in your family, dealt with a personal issue, crisis, whatever, we want to commemorate. See, it says right up there. You don't have to take my word for it. It says it on the screen. Anybody who's had any kind of challenge this year, come on up, and we want you to be honored with an aliyah. Because even though your tsuras is private, we can acknowledge that you have had difficulty. We can acknowledge and honor you for having been through and still be standing. Karen, I like your talit. It's very nice. Yeah, Simon says 2 steps closer. Oh, Ram, אני כל כך שמח שאתה פה. Hello. Okay, Darce, come on up. You're tall. All right. Here we go, everybody. I'm going to hold it really high. 1, 2, 3. Baruch Adonai Barak Leolam Vaed. Amen.
Amen. Vayhi ahar hadavarim
He's following in your books.
Elohim nisa et Abraham vayomer elav Abraham vayomer hineni vayomer katna et binha et idaha asher ahavta et Yitzhak v'lech lecha el eretz hamoria v'hale husham leila al ehad heharim asher omar eleha. V'yashkem Avraham baboker. Vayahavosh et hamoro, vayika et shnei ne'arav yito, ve'et Yitzhak beno, vayivaka atzei olav, vayakam vayile el hamakom asher amar lo ha'Elohim, bayom hashlishi, vayisa Avraham et einav, vayaret hamakom merahok, vayomer Avraham el ne'arav, ashulahem pao im hahamor, v'ani v'hana'ar ne'elhad ad ko, v'nishtachaveh v'neshuva alehem, v'yikach Avraham et atzei ha'olah, v'yasem el Yitzhak beno, v'yikach v'yado et ha'esh ve'et ha'ma'ahelet, ve'lu shnehem yakdav, vayomer Yitzhak el Avraham, aviv, vayomer avi, vayomer hineni beni, vayomer hine haseh, ha'esh v'ha'etzim, hazeh le'olah, vayomer Avraham, Elohim, yirelo hazeh, le'olah beni, v'lishnehem yakdav.
Yishkoach. By the way, this is the high holiday trope that she's been chanting, and we're not giving you a translation. I'll give you a 30-second praise C. Abraham has been ordered to sacrifice that which is most precious to him, his son. And he agrees to do it, and he goes in the earliest part of the morning and takes his servants, and he loads up the donkey, and he takes 2 servants and Isaac, and they go up toward the mountain. And halfway up the mountain, Isaac says, well, where is the sacrifice going to be? What is the sacrifice going to be? And Abraham looks right at him and says, God will see to the lamb for the sacrifice, my son. And Isaac gets the inference, and the story will go on from there. Blessing afterwards. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bartan lanu Torah emes, v'chayei lanu atah b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. The psalmist cried, Mimami kim karaticha. Out of the depths have I called to you. And whether it was God who answered, or God in the form of the person who holds our hand, or strokes our hair, or comforts us, may these wonderful people know that they are not alone in all that they have withstood. And here they are standing tall on Rosh Hashana, a new year, a new day, a new possibility. May God wipe your tears, and may you be blessed this year of sweetness, as together we say, Amen. Say Yesher Koach loud. The second Aliyah. Always have to listen for the second Aliyah. If you're going to be celebrating or have been celebrating something marvelous in your life, a graduation, an anniversary, a birthday. Well, wait a minute, you all have birthdays this year. If you had a milestone birthday, if you had something marvelous happen to you, you got a promotion, you got a new job, you moved to the city, and Pittsburgh's the most wonderful place since sliced bread. Whatever it is, we want you to celebrate. If you are celebrating this Rosh Hashana, we want you to have, oh, look, a pair of newlyweds coming up right now. There we go. Is it Barbara? Who's next? Oh, it's, yeah. Okay, so you'll be with them, okay? Okay, Simon says 3 steps forward. 1, and a 2, and a 3. There we go. Oh, look at that baby. That baby doesn't know Hebrew yet.
That's a milestone.
There we go. Hey, Sherry. Hi, Billy. We like lots of happy people. And guys, move up into where Canna Berman is right now. There we go. Hey, Canna Berman, be tall. There we go. Come on, be really tall. Here we go. We've got to start. 1, 2, 3. Baruch Adonai Barak Leolam Vahed. Yes. That was easy, Laura, huh? Amen.
Amen. Vayomer el, vayavo'u el hamakom asher amar lo ha'elohim, vayiven sham Avraham et hamizbeach, vayaroch et ha'etzim, vayakod et Yitzhak beno vayasem oto al hamizbeach mimol la'etzim, Vayishlach Avraham et Yado, Vayikach et Hama'achelet, Lishchot et Beno, Vayikra Elav Mimol, Malach Adonai, Min Hashamayim, Vayomer Avraham, Vayomer Kineni, Vayomer al tishlach yadacha el hana'ar ve'al ta'as lo me'uma ki ata yadati ki yarei Elohim ata velo chasata et benicha et yechicha mimeni Vanisa Avraham et Enav Vayar Hine Ayo Achar Ne'echars Basfahav
I think I got you wrong here. Over here, Karnav. Bekarnav.
Bekarnav Vayelech Avraham Vayikrav Vayikaf et Hayu Vaya'elu Leola Tachat Beno. Vayikra Avraham Sham Shem Hamakom Hahu Adonai Yireh Asher Ye'amer Hayom Bechar Adonai Yera'eh.
I screwed you up. I messed you up and put you over here.
You're fine.
It's fine. So they're on the mountain. Abraham prepares. He puts the wood on the altar. He binds his son and lifts him upon the altar on the wood, and is prepared to do this when the most compelling two-word phrase in all of Torah comes out. Avraham, Avraham. Do not extend your hand to the boy. And he does not, and they find a ram, and they offer that ram in place of his son. Here we go. Amen. Roni simchi. Be joyful. Be happy at all of the goodness that has come into your life. That goodness may be in the person who's standing next to you or you're looking at in the congregation right now. That goodness may have come through good news from a doctor or good news from somebody that has a profound influence upon you. That good news is there to be stored for the day when the news will not be as good, stored for the day when you may have to pull it out and remember that life is not just a challenge, but as full of joy as you are at this very moment. As together we say, Amen. A really loud Yeshikoach. And you see, I don't even have to yell it out. If you volunteered here, if you're the first vice president of the congregation, Allison, please come on up. Sharon, if you make sure that the office works, come on up. All of our volunteers. Oh, you do?
Thanks. You mean it's not paid?
Yeah. Come on, Barry. What do I always say? Be tall. Be tall. Come on, volunteers. Come on, David. What's up there? You know it. And I have to say, this is the very first time in my 32 years here, my last High Holidays, that Captain America has ever been on the pulpit. Show your shield. Lift it up. There you go. We're all safe now. It's good to know. The police officers can go. No, they can't. All right. Really tall, Bar. Like this. 1, 2, 3. Bar. Baruch Adonai Barak Leolam Vaed. Amen. Hold the Torah.
ויקרא מלאך אדוני אל אברהם שנית מן השמיים ויאמר בי נשבעתי נאום אדוני כי יען אשר עשית את הדבר הזה ולא חסכת את בנך יחידך כי ברך אברכך והרבה הרבה זרעך ככוכבי השמיים וככל אשר על שפת הים וירש זרעך את שאר אויביו והתברכו בזרעך כל גויי הארץ עקב אשר שמעת בקולי וישוב אברהם אל נעריו ויקומו וילכו יחדיו אל באר שבע וישב אברהם בבאר שבע ויהי אחרי הדברים האלה ויוגד לאברהם לאמור הנה ילדה מלכה גם היא בנים לנחור אחיך את עוץ בכורו ואת בוז אחיו ואת כמואל אבי ארם ואת כסד ואת חזו ואת פלדש ואת ידלף ואת בתואל ובתואל ילד את רבקה 8 אלה ילדה מלכה לנחור אחי אברהם ופילגשו ושמה ראומה ותלד גם היא את טבח ואת גחם ואת תחש ואת
מעכה. יש כוח. So the drama is completed. Isaac is freed. Abraham goes on his own to Beersheba. And that last paragraph, which was not in our old High Holiday prayer book, gives the line of the family through another part of Avram's family, and we get the birth of Rivka, who's eventually going to marry Isaac. And although we can say it's a happy ending, all are changed forever. And we'll talk about that change in just a few minutes. Ready? Amen. Our tradition says that you'll be blessed through banayich, your children. The rabbis changed banayich from the scripture to be bonayich, your builders. You are builders. Without you, there is no community. Our community is not this magnificent place in which we stand. It is the place of love in which we hold each other in tenderness, in joy and in sorrow. We are builders here, all of us. And we, Rabbi Gorbin, Cantor Berman, and myself, we try to be architects. But without you building on the ground, nothing would be here. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all that you have built in our Kihila Kedosha, in our sacred community. As together we say, Amen. Say Yesher Koach like you mean it. I haven't. As people are going down, I want you to think of those who are ill. We're going to offer Mishaberach. Hey, if Ellen's not here. There you go. And if you care to, say quietly the names out loud of those for whom you wish to be in the communal heart today. I'm not going to be looking around the room. I just want you to simply call them out as you can while we're singing the Mishaberach. Please know that we wish healing of body, mind, and spirit for not just the people who are here, but for the people who can't even be with us today. Mishaberach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage. 245. Make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mikor HaBracha bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, as you are able, please rise for the lifting of the Torah.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai biyad Moshe. Torah ora, Torah ora, hallelujah. Torah ora, Torah ora, hallelujah.
Torah, Torah, hallelujah. Torah, Torah, hallelujah.
Torah, 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 tziva lanu.
Please find your seats.
Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, tziva lanu Moshe.
Laura fell? Haftarah?
Okay.
Laura's going to come up and do the blessing. Where's Laura fell? Come on up. It's time for the blessing for the Haftarah, which is found on page 247.
Let me just introduce it, okay? I'll give you a cue, okay? So every Shabbat and holiday Torah reading, as you may know, has a corresponding Haftarah, a reading from the prophets. Before we begin the Haftarah, Laura Fell is going to chant our bracha before.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar bivim tovim v'ratzah v'derehem haneh amorim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'torah u'Moshe avdoho u'Yisrael amoho uvi hamet v'zedek.
Amen. Shkoach. So Laura just chanted, Baruch atah Adonai, praiseworthy are you, God, Asher Bachar bin V'im Tovim, who chose good or faithful prophets. You can, yeah. Thank you. Interesting that today, on this high holy day of Rosh Hashana, the Haftarah isn't about a prophet. It's about an ordinary woman. Her name was Hannah. Her husband Elkanah had two wives, Peninnah, with whom he had several children, and Hannah, with whom he had no children. The Haftarah tells us that Hannah was not able to have children. This didn't seem to matter at all to Elkanah. He loved Hannah just as she was. He couldn't understand why Hannah was so unhappy not having a child. But she was unhappy, and when their family went to the temple, she would only cry and cry and cry. But one year, it was different. Hannah was still very sad, but this time when the family went to the temple, Hannah arose, and through her tears, she began to pray to God. The Haftarah tells us that she poured out her soul to God. She brought all of her feelings, her tears, her sobbing, her utter despair, her deepest desire to God. So, to the kids out here, when you really, really, really want something, how do you ask your parents? Do you say, please? Pretty please? Do you say, I love you so much, and by the way, may I have a fill in the blank? Do you make promises like, if you get me this, I'll do something for you. I'll put my stuff back where it belongs. I'll keep my room clean. Sound familiar? Well, Hannah did something like that, and she didn't ask God for anything that can be bought. We ask God in our tradition for things like strength and understanding, patience, compassion, healing. Hannah asked God and promised a solemn, sacred promise to God if it would happen, for God to help her to have a child. Well, Eli the Kohen sat nearby and watched Hannah as she prayed. He wondered if Hannah was okay, since he saw that her lips were moving, but her voice couldn't be heard. Hannah was okay. She was taking her sadness and her very private prayer right to God. That's what we do. If we want to share our private prayers with anyone, that's fine, but we all can talk directly to God. At Rosh Hashana, we remind ourselves, and maybe, just maybe, we remind God too, that each one of us has sincere prayers, that each one of us wants to be remembered and wants our prayers to be remembered by God. May we offer God our gratitude, or we may offer God our gratitude, our confusion, our disappointments. We can offer it here at Temple Sinai or anywhere. We can offer our prayers without any sound, as Hannah did. Or we can sing them loudly. That's good too. We can use words that have been collected from centuries of Jewish prayer. We can let our prayers come out through a musical instrument, or we can paint them on a canvas, or we can write them in a poem. However we bring what's in our hearts to God, what matters is that we express it as Hannah did, with heartfelt sincerity. The Haftarah doesn't tell us anything about how God listened or even about God's reaction. We only learn that Eli the Kohen didn't understand at first what Hannah was doing. He was so moved by the feeling, the intensity of Hannah's prayer, that ultimately he said to her, "May God grant you what you have asked." Or maybe he said, "God will grant you what you have asked." We can read the Hebrew both ways. Either way, Hannah felt better. Did she feel relieved that she had expressed her emotions? Did she feel that God heard her prayer? The Haftarah doesn't say exactly, but it does say that her face, which had been so sad, was no longer as it had been. Soon we learn that Hannah indeed had a child. She got what she prayed for, the gift of a new life to nurture. And isn't that what we all come today to celebrate and to pray for? Life. Life's renewal. That theme of renewal is even reflected on Rosh Hashana by the renewed moon in the night sky that will grow larger and rounder in the next 2 weeks until we reach the bounty of Sukkot. It's echoed by the words Hayom Harat Olam that are special to today's liturgy, that today is the first moment of eternity. I think that every time Hannah looked at her child, Hannah remembered God and how God remembered her with a new life. And she saw that spark in God in the eyes of her child, the spark of endless potential. The next time we find Hannah at the temple, she was in very different spirits and now offering words of celebration and gratitude. Alatzli bi l'Adonai, my heart exults in God, she says. Again, she brings to God her deepest emotions. She's remembering this new life that she has been given, and she expresses her deepest appreciation. We are all here today on this day of Rosh Hashana to bring our prayers to God, prayers for the world, for the community, for our families, and our very own private prayers that perhaps no one else but God can understand. We seek renewed hope that the future, like a child, can hold the wonder of potential. May God remember us all, knowing that in God's eyes, we are all as noteworthy and worth listening to as Hannah. And may God grant us all promise for our individual and collective future.
Just
Baruch atah Adonai, melech al kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael. Melech al kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael. Melech al kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael. V'yom hazikaron.
May I have anybody who's going to be blowing shofar with me up on the pulpit with me now? Or I can go solo.
We have no other shofar blowers? We're going to continue with
Come on up.
our Zichronot, which can be found on page 267. So the second set of shofar blasts calls upon us to remember our covenant with God and to ask God to remember the covenant with us. We have a special relationship with God, one that includes promises of commitment and blessing. Jewish tradition says that it wasn't just our ancestors who lived thousands of years ago who agreed to this covenant, that actually every single Jew who has ever lived and will ever live was part of making that promise. Our minds may not remember standing at Sinai and entering into a covenant with God, but our souls do. As you listen to the sound of the shofar, listen for the soul memory of standing at Mount Sinai and receiving the Torah from God. You may even want to close your eyes as you listen for the connection between us and the generations that came before us. Listen and imagine the chain of tradition, our ancestors holding hands with each other and with you, and you holding the hands of your descendants. Listen, imagine, remember. Please rise as you're able. Baruch atah Adonai, zocher habrit. Blessed are you, Adonai. You remember the covenant. You remember us. Tekiah, shvarim trua. Tekiah, tekiah, shvarim. Tekiah, tekiah. Trua, tekiah. Reshet sifatenu yerav lefanecha, eram v'nisa. Reshet sifatenu yerav lefanecha, eram v'nisa. Baby, nu mazin mabit, shu makshiv lekol tekiyatenu. Utkaber berachamim uratzon, seder zichronotenu. Anyone who is a kid seated, who wants to be up here for the last set of calls and also for the shofar song is welcome to come up. Please come up now.
Shofar song, come on. Come on up now. Bring your parents with you if you want.
And I know that some of you are getting ready to sit down. I'm going to recommend you not. With those first two sets of shofar calls, we thought about the present and the past. And in this third set, we look ahead to the future. What will help create a time when all people live in peace and safety and love? Even though we can't bring that time of redemption individually, we each have a role in helping to make this world a better place. We know we have to partner with each other and with God to perfect the world. As you listen to the sound of these shofar calls, let it resonate and reverberate in your body. Feel it awakening your feet, your hands, your head, and your heart. What have you been ignoring? What do you need to do to fulfill your part in bringing wholeness and peace to our world? Baruch atah Adonai shomea kol truat amo Yisrael barachamim. Blessed are you in our lives, Adonai. You hear with love the shofar, true voice of your people Israel. We're on page 284. Tekiah, shvarim truah. Tekiah, Tekiah, shvarim. Tekiah, Tekiah, Truah, Tekiah Gedolah. You may be seated, the shofar blast, sometimes slow and sometimes fast. I like to hear the shofar blast. Happy, happy, happy New Year. I like to hear the shofar blast, sometimes slow and sometimes fast. I like to hear the shofar blast. Happy, happy, happy New Year. Tekiah, Tekiah. I hear the shofar blast, sometimes slow and sometimes fast. I like to hear the shofar blast. Happy, happy, happy New Year. Shvarim, Shvarim. I like to hear the shofar blast, sometimes slow and sometimes fast. I like to hear the shofar blast. Happy, happy, happy New Year. True. True. Like to hear the shofar blast, sometimes slow and sometimes fast. I like to hear the shofar blast. Happy, happy, happy New Year. Tekiah Gedolah. Hear the shofar blast, sometimes slow and sometimes fast. I like to hear the shofar blast. Happy, happy, happy New Year. Happy, happy, happy New Year. Happy, happy, happy New Year. And as we return the Torah to the ark, please rise as you are able. Chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomcheha meusharetz. Chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomcheha meusharetz. Shalom, 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 shalom. Thank you, everybody.
Well, the results are in. We failed. We did not do the entire service in an hour and a half. Just so you know, there will be some rumbling in the back because I am going to give a sermon. I don't know. I am going to give one. I hope you don't mind. It's kind of like my last deal these last high holidays, and so I'm going to give you my full heart. Abraham tossed and turned on his mat, blanket covered with sweat. Sleep wouldn't come. He couldn't breathe. He ached all over. He knew that death would come, but not soon enough. And despite all of his pains, his nervous sweat was caused by something else: guilt. He felt tremendous guilt even as death hovered over him. And you'd think that a patriarch like Abraham wouldn't be plagued like this. After all, he was the first in history to respond to the call of the one God. But it wasn't God who nodded him this night. No, it was knowing that he had failed as a father. Whose fault it was didn't matter. Sarah had made him throw out his firstborn Ishmael, along with his mother Hagar. He put a knife to the neck of his second son Isaac at God's command. And when she had heard about it, what he had done to her only son, Sarah collapsed and died on the spot, at least according to the rabbis. At least Sarah had been old, but his sons, it made him ache from the inside out. Now, if talking counts for anything, the Torah shows that Abraham and his sons had never been particularly close. Abraham and Ishmael never exchanged one word before he's banished. And he only ever says 8 words to Isaac. And that was to put him at ease so he could offer him up as a sacrifice. And if Abraham is unhappy about his sons, we're not thrilled with him either. The Midrash itself teaches that even Avraham knows that he's not a great father. Rabbi Ben Tema declares, more than all the misfortunes that overtook Abraham, this matter of exiling Ishmael was exceedingly evil in his eyes, as it is said, and the thing was grievous in Abraham's sight on account of his son. And we can only nod in agreement. These stories break our minds and shatter our hearts. They demand that we search for a reason that makes sense, especially the binding of Isaac. What could it be? Was the binding of Isaac a story that was an attack on child sacrifice? My dear teacher, Hanan Brichto, may his memory be a blessing, utterly rejected this. No, he argued that as our first spiritual hero, Abraham was asked to offer up to God his ultimate value, that which he valued most in life. And that was his son, Isaac. And God, in the end, would reject the offer. But we, Brichto claimed, offer our children to gods far less worthy. And we don't even have to be commanded. We offer our children willingly to the gods of sports, academics, entertainment, and more. Take Kate. Kate was a bright girl. She never missed school, not even for a cold. She never got below an A in any subject. If she was weak in math, she worked till she excelled. And her parents were delighted to find that Kate was so highly motivated. They encouraged her to reach all of her potential. They lined up tutors for her, and by 10th grade, they thought she was a lock for a scholarship. They sent her to a summer program at Yale to prepare for the kind of academic atmosphere she'd face in college. But when Kate came back, she was angry and depressed. What happened, her mom asked. Why are you acting like this? We sent you to Yale to help you, not hurt you. Were the other kids there mean? She shook her head. No, they were nice. I just don't want to do this anymore. And dreams of a scholarship evaporated in her mother's head. But you've come so far, Kate. You're such a great student, everyone in school looks up to you. That's why we've pushed you so hard. If you didn't want this, you could have just told us. No, I couldn't, Kate said angrily. You would have looked at me with pity and told me it was okay, when all the time I'd see in your eyes how disappointed you were. And that would have been intolerable. So I kept pushing the way I knew you wanted me to. Her father gave a try. Kate, all we've ever wanted is for you to be happy. And Kate glared at him. No, you would never have been satisfied with only my happiness. You've always wanted the best for me. The best for their best little girl, you always said. I knew better than to push back against that. And Kate's parents stood there crestfallen. They realized that Kate was right. They kept setting the bar higher and higher, expecting Kate to jump over without complaint. And it dawned on them that they had been willing to sacrifice their daughter to the god of their own ambitions. But thankfully, Kate had jumped off the altar before the sacrifice could be completed. Many of us are a bit crazed when it comes to our children. We want the best for them, but that best can be a treacherous and false God. What are we willing to do to serve the God of the best? Lie? Cheat? Steal? The news this past year is filled with parents who would break almost any rule, pay almost any price to get their teen into a prestigious university. Is this unholy drive really about the welfare of our teens? Or is it the idolatry of the parents, their devotion to that damned goddess of success and keeping up with neighbors? It's bad enough we offer up our own children to false gods, but this past year and a half, we've watched what our government has done to other people's children at our borders, and it shatters my heart. You and I have seen the pictures. We can't get them out of our minds. Listen to their voices. A 5-year-old boy says, "I was apprehended with my father. The immigration agent separated me from my father right away. I was very frightened and scared. I cried. I have not seen my father again." An 11-year-old says, "There are little kids here who have no one to take care of them, not even a big brother or sister. Some kids are only 2 or 3 and have no one to take care of them." A 12-year-old girl says, "At 3 a.m., the officers told us that our grandmother would be taken away. My grandmother tried to show the officers a paper signed by my parents saying that she could take care of us. The officers rejected the paper and said it had to be signed by a judge. And then they took her away. We haven't seen her since." According to Newsweek, Justice Department lawyer Sarah Fabian tried to argue that it was not technically a requirement of the government to provide migrant children with sanitary items like soap and toothbrushes or access to showers and blankets. Many of these families are running away from murder, rape, and violence. And when they get here, we tear their children from their parents and put them in detention facilities. We put children in court proceedings, some of them as young as 3 years old, as if they're hardened criminals. We house them without adequate hygiene facilities, space to sleep or move about safely. And contrary to the rhetoric we hear nationally, these families are seeking asylum here. They are not seeking to replace white people. They're coming because their choice at home is to join gangs, pay protection money, or be murdered wholesale. Where is our heart? Have we lost our Rahmanis, our compassion? Have we lost our collective memory? We fled to this country in the face of murder, rape, and violence in the form of pogroms. And we were grateful to gain admission here in the hope that we might make a better life. And so many of us, that's our family story. Our great-grandparents didn't know English. They spoke Yiddish, Polish, Russian, Lithuanian, Ukrainian. They were not wealthy Jews who could buy their way into this country via a special visa program. They were not these countries' finest, the cream of the crop. Our families were desperately poor and worked the most menial jobs to get a foothold. They sewed until their fingers bled. They rolled cigars. They worked in factories. They sold buttons from push carts. And they didn't ask for comfort and ease. All they wanted was safety and a path forward. This is what we used to call the American dream. It is what the families at the borders want as well, a chance. Nothing more. The children being held in detention centers at our borders are being sacrificed to the god of fear. The fear of brown people, the fear of political shifts, fear of economic competition, fear born of prejudice, and yes, racism. Now, our Torah is crystal clear on this. 36 times it declares, "You shall not oppress the stranger, for you know the heart of the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt." 36 times we're told not to eat bacon twice. I'm not saying we need to open our borders to everyone. We have the right as a country to establish policies and procedures. But sadly, the legal path to immigrate here now takes well more than a decade, if not longer. We must remember that we are part of an international community that recognizes the right of people to flee for their lives. It is a status protected by the UN Convention and Protocol regarding the status of refugees, which our country signed in 1967. Quoting my teacher, Rabbi Dr. Mark Wachowski, that convention guarantees the right not to be punished for illegal entry into a contracting state, the right not to be expelled except under certain strictly defined conditions, the right to housing, education, and public relief, a convention we signed more than 50 years ago. Now, look, some of you might be thinking, Rabbi, there are so many problems we face as Jews. Violent anti-Semitism, dwindling membership in congregations, a threat to Israel from Iran, Hamas and Hezbollah. You're talking about people who don't look like us, who don't speak like us, who practice a different religion. Why are you bringing this unpleasantness into our High Holy Day services? And I would answer, you're right. Every one of those problems is worthy of our time and attention this Rosh Hashana. But I can't stop my ears to the cries of those kids. I can't close my eyes to their anguished faces. I can't stand idly by as those children are offered to the gods of intolerance, bigotry, and fear. I truly believe that America is the greatest home we Jews have ever had outside of our own land. I grew up singing America the Beautiful and crying when we got to the words, "Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears, except mine," because I can't get through the verse without crying. I love this country because of the promise it has held for our people and so many others. And I refuse to sacrifice other people's children who are as desperate as my own family was when they got here in the early 1900s. I believe with all of my heart we can work on our own issues as Jews and still welcome others. And I believe our Judaism demands no less. We are no mere interest group, we Jews. We're a community of faith and values, eternal faith and values. Our faith and hard-won place in our country require us to care for those who are as unfortunate now as our families once were. Of course, we must protect our children's Jewish future, but we are not permitted to ignore the cries of children of strangers either. And the beautiful thing is we don't have to choose between them or us. There is a third way. Our sages teach, believe it or not, that Abraham had a third child, a daughter only hinted at in the Torah. The Midrash teaches that the Torah states, and God blessed Avraham with everything. The word is bakol. And the sages disagree what bakol with everything means. One rabbi says it means that he didn't have a daughter. Another rabbi says it means that he had a daughter. On the contrary, and her name was bakol, everything. Avram was blessed in everything because he not only had sons, but he had a daughter from his last wife, Keturah. The daughter's name, Bakol, is what makes Abraham's death peaceful despite his failures as a dad. And the Torah declares that Abraham died in good old age, at peace, blessed because he had a daughter who was a blessing, blessed because of his estranged sons, Isaac and Ishmael, who reconciled to bury him after death. We aspire to this bakol as well, to be blessed in everything. We can take care of our own children and seek justice for other children as well. And the path to this blessing of bakol was written more than 100 years ago by the great American Jewish poet Emma Lazarus, who in 1883 famously wrote in her poem, The New Colossus, "Keep ancient lands, your storied pomp cries, she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. No more will we sacrifice immigrant children to the God of fear. We seek blessing for them instead, for our sake as well as theirs. We seek the blessings of Abraham and his children Ishmael, Isaac, and Bakol, his daughter, to make all of America's children native-born, dreamers, immigrants, and refugees alike safe and secure Bakol in everything, especially those who suffer in detention camps on our borders. This year, I will be personally working more with HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. They helped so many of our families settle in this country 100 years ago, when we fled from the Tsar and the pogroms. I'll also be working with our local groups, Jewish Family and Community Services, Change Agency, and Casa San Jose, which assist in welcoming newcomers to our region. I will passionately oppose this week's slashing of the number of refugees in our country to the merest number of 18,000, when tens and hundreds of thousands of more are in need of help and asylum and hope. Please let me know if you want to join me in this work. And if you disagree, come and talk to me. I am always eager to expand my own understanding and learn from you who disagree, and do so without rancor. No more children sacrificed to the false god of fear. No more children freezing in mats at the border. We cherish all of Abraham's children for the blessings they are. For we are all Abraham's children, aren't we? And if we are, shouldn't we make his descendants blessed, bakol, in everything? Aren't we all Abraham's children? Aren't we? May we bless our own children this year. And may we find the courage to bless the children at our borders. May we lift our lamp beside the golden door for blessing for all. Bakol, blessing in everything. Bakol, blessing for everyone. Bakol, blessing in everything for us all. Blessings. 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 Okay. Yesh koach. Thank you. Since we've run out of time, absolutely, I'm going to ask you to rise in place, and those who need to say Kaddish turn to 292, and we'll dismiss from Kaddish. Thank you for everyone who participated in the service today, who read Torah, who blew shofar, the kids who sang, the other kids over there who sang as well. And thank you for all of you for helping to understand that we want to have our services engage you, and that we want to try to meet you where you are and not just where the book is. On 292, Yid Gadal, Yid Kadash, Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yomad yivrach hirutei v'yomlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedechol Beit Yisrael. B'galav yizman kari v'yamru.
Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach le'olam olamei almayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitomam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shmei Dekudisha. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiram b'yomah v'yimru.
Amen.
Yehei Shlom Rabbah min Shemaya. L'chaim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'yimru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'kol Yishvei tevel v'yimru.
Amen.
Amen. May the source of peace in the high heavens cause peace to descend on all of us, all Israel and all of our world. May God give peace to those families that are torn. May God make them whole. As together we say, Amen. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.